I'm wearing my We Hate Richard Peel shirt, just for the record. Hey guys, it's Junebug, and today I am finally getting back to do my second illustrated summary video. Today I will be doing The Gentleman's Guide by Mackenzie Lee. And this is one of my favorite books of all time, so there's that. I have to go ahead and give you guys warnings for spoilers, and then also a language warning because for some reason I can't make these videos without swearing a lot. So, without further ado, here is my illustrated summary of The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. The Gent's Guide takes place in 18th century Europe, where we meet the lovely and horrible Henry Montague, commonly referred to as Monty. Pretty much all you need to know about Monty is he's the worst thing to happen to bisexuality since King Arthur from BBC's Merlin. Anyway, Monty has a lot of issues, including an abusive father who's one of the worst characters in all of literature. He also has the world's loveliest best friend, who he is hopelessly in love with. Ripped Monty. Monty and Percy, his best friend, and Monty's sister Felicity are going on a grand tour of Europe, and it's going to be a fabulous year of freedom before Monty is forced to take over his father's estate. So Monty is planning on partying and living his best, possibly worst life for his final year of freedom. But unfortunately, his actual trash can of a father is planning on ruining that by sending Mr. Lockwood to keep an eye on the three of them. Mr. Lockwood is really out here killing Monty's vibe. Anyway, the tour starts and it kind of really sucks, but at least Monty has Percy and they have the friendship that we all aspire to have, until Monty kisses the lovely Percy Newton and then proceeds to reject Percy because your boy Henry Montague has commitment issues and needs to be stopped. And then gay tension, so Monty just does his best to ignore Percy and pretend it didn't happen because that's a good decision. Anyway, as part of the tour, the boys and Felicity are required to go to the summer ball thingy with a lot of important people. Monty kind of makes a fool of himself, but it's not really his fault for once because everyone's being a rat. He also meets this guy, the Duke of Bourbon, important for later, who's an ass. Anyway, Monty ends up almost sleeping with this chick in the Duke of Bourbon's apartments because he's having the ultimate sad boy hours, but then someone walks in on them, so then Monty makes a break for it because he's awful and steals this box because he's still salty about everyone and everything. And so Monty's running naked through the courtyard and proceeds to make a fool out of everyone he came with. So, yeah, way to go, Monty. Anyway, word gets out about the incident, so Monty's dad wants him to come back home. Monty hates his life and hates himself, so everyone's angsty and Monty, Percy, Mr. Lockwood, and Felicity head back. Because nothing in Monty's life ever goes right, the carriage gets stopped by these highwaymen who are looking for something. I wonder what? Monty, Percy, and Felicity end up getting free because Felicity is awesome and Percy is a badass with a fiddle, so suck it, loser. Unfortunately, they lose track of Lockwood, so they plan to meet up with him in the next major city. So they're about to go on their merry way until Felicity and Percy are like, hold up. Do you know what they were looking for? And Monty's like, well, I stole this box, maybe that's it? Understandably, everyone is angry and salty at Monty, but what's new? This is about the part of the story where you start to wonder why you're rooting for Monty as a character because he's an absolute and complete ass. And then there's angst, and then guess what? The highwaymen show up again! And so then Felicity and Monty and Percy are hiding, but then when you think things can't get any worse, Percy has a seizure, and Monty freaks out, but Felicity is a badass with a strange amount of medical knowledge and knows what to do. And they end up finding this apothecary guy who lets them hide on his boat, but Percy is still very not okay physically, and Monty is very not okay mentally. Monty is so in love with Percy, it's honestly ridiculous. And we find out soon after Percy has epilepsy, but because it's 18th century Europe, his aunt and uncle, who he lives with, are sending him to an insane asylum after they get back from the tour. But Monty is Monty and doesn't take the news well and makes it about himself and is like, why didn't you tell me? So him and Percy fight, and irony is fun and painful. Anyway, and so then Monty talks to Felicity and he's like, am I a good person? And is this possible character growth? Felicity is like, well, not really. And then there are feelings. So they just stay on the apothecary's boat for a while, and then the highwaymen show up again because these guys will just not let it go. And somewhere in this general part of the book, we find out the leader of the highwaymen is actually the Duke of Bourbon. Now, I'm going to take a moment just to appreciate the word zounds. It's so 18th century Europe, and I want to start incorporating it in my everyday vocabulary. Anyway, moving on. We find out that the box belongs to this alchemist guy that Bourbon presumably took it from, and Monty's like, we gotta return it. And everyone's like, why do you want to do the right thing now? And Monty's like, alchemist guy could have a cure for Percy. And then there's a scene where Monty kind of apologizes to Percy, which he could have done better, but he's trying. And then 4 paragraphs later, Monty tells Percy to don't go falling in love with me because commitment issues, and oh my god, he's so in love with Percy, I fucking hate him. Later they go to the bank because money and are like, how can we withdraw money from the Montague account? Because Monty's dad surely made it Monty and Felicity proof. But then Monty sees the clerk guy at the bank and his gaydar goes off and he's like, I got this. And Monty basically uses his power of being a flirtatious, chaotic bisexual to convince the guy to let him withdraw money. And it fucking works. Then there's traveling, and then there's arguing and angst and possible character growth. And they reach the alchemist's house and he isn't freaking there because he dead. But enter Helena and Dante Robles. I'm probably not pronouncing any of these names right. Helena and Dante are the kids of the alchemist, though they supposedly don't know anything about what's in the box. Sure. Helena invites them to stay because it's been a long journey, and Monty is like, hell yeah, and Percy and Felicity are like, what the fuck, Monty, this chick is creepy. But then that night, Monty isn't asked to Percy, but what's new? So Monty goes to drink alcohol because he has issues. Felicity is already awake, so they have a conversation where Felicity is basically like, Monty, are you gay? And Monty's like, sometimes. I'm gay sometimes. Of course, the conversation doesn't have that exact terminology because it is, and I cannot stress this enough, 18th century Europe. Anyway, next day, your boy Monty snoops and finds a letter from who but the Duke of Bourbon asking about something called the Lazarus Key. I don't know how to pronounce Lazarus. So, flash forward, research is done and they find out it might be referring to Lazarus from the Bible, which all you need to know for the purpose of this plot line is Lazarus is the guy Jesus raised from the dead. But what they do end up finding out, thanks to Felicity, is the alchemist was working on this artificial heart thing that is, like they say in the book, basically a philosopher's stone that can heal. So, interesting. Anyway, the boys and Felicity end up going to an opera thing with the Robleses and end up finding out that the alchemist isn't dead, he's just in jail. But then Percy is not okay and Monty's like, oh god, everything will always come second to Percy, and Monty takes Percy back to the house because he wants him to feel better, and we love character development. And he makes Percy really shitty tea, but hey, at least he tried. This boy can't even do tea right. And Percy is thankful because no one stays and I'm fucking emo. And this is the part of the book where you start to like Monty for some reason and realize why he is indeed the protagonist of this novel. But the two of them do some snooping, but then Dante comes home and Percy and Monty are chaotic, but then they find Felicity is making out with Dante to try and get information out of him, and we stan Felicity. And then they find out from Dante that his dad did indeed succeed with making the healing live forever heart thing, but it wasn't perfect, and so now their mom is eternally asleep and not dead and not alive, and the key in the box opens her vault. And also the vault is on a sinking island, so rip to everybody. So our main three and Dante decide they need to talk to the alchemist, so Monty gets purposely arrested, and it's going as well as possible until one of the guards basically beats the crap out of Monty, and Monty has a panic attack because trauma, and Monty needs to be brave and thinks about Percy, and I cry, and then Percy is the sweetest, and there are so many emotions, and this video is supposed to be funny and not me sobbing about Monty and Percy for 12 minutes, right? Okay! Monty ends up finding the alchemist, and the alchemist basically tells Monty how terrible the cost and power of the heart is, but he gives Monty the code to open the box. But then later, Helena fucking stabs Monty with some sort of poison because she has this deal with the Duke of Bourbon that if she gets him the heart, the Duke will get the alchemist is her father, out of prison, and Monty is getting in the way of that, and then she tries to figure out where the box is, and Monty is fucking dying, and actual Angel Percy clubs Helena over the head. Icon. So Monty passes out and wakes up with Percy and Felicity, and Monty's super sick and reliving trauma, and so Monty sleeps off the poison drug thing and Monty and Percy are tender and I can't! But it turns out Monty did get the key before they left, but Monty wants to use the heart to heal Percy when they get it because he thinks it could fix his epilepsy, but Percy doesn't want to steal Mama Robles' life, but also she's already kind of dead. So they decide to at least go to the island, which for the record is Venice adjacent. They end up hiding on the ship to make it to Venice, and late in the night Percy and Monty finally talk about feelings, and they almost kiss so fucking close, and then pirates happen. And everything gets kind of scary and terrible, but then we meet Scipio! Okay, Scipio is the second best character in this goddamn book and you can't change my mind. Though when we meet Scipio, he kind of doesn't seem like a great guy as he's threatening to cut off Monty's fingers, you know, as pirates do. But Percy is brilliant and also baby, so he, Monty, and Felicity end up making a deal with Scipio, and so nobody's going to get their fingers cut off, which is pretty solid. Anyway, Scipio low-key becomes kind of a father figure to Monty. There's this one painful and beautiful scene where Scipio teaches Monty how to throw a punch, and it gets me every frickin' time. Anyway, they end up making it to Venice, then Monty gets drunk because he has issues, but then we finally get cute Monty and Percy content because they are in love and hate Richard Peel and catch me sobbing. But then they start talking about what will happen after the tour, and then they get in a fight and Monty is an ass and throws the very important key at Percy and Percy leaves. Then Monty gets even drunker and Scipio finds him. Scipio's like, what the hell are you doing? And Monty has a high key breakdown. And when we start to think that things can't get any worse, who shows up but the Duke of fucking Bourbon? And the Duke is like, where the hell is the key? And tells Scipio to bring Felicity and Percy to him by the next morning or he'll shoot Monty, so that's great. And Helena's there, but like with the Duke, so that frickin' sucks. But then the Duke takes Monty to an island to get the heart. Then Percy and Felicity show up right before Monty is about to get shot, and Percy gives Bourbon the key because otherwise Monty's going to die. And Helena, bless her, destroys the frickin' heart. And then everything is panicky and the Duke shoots Monty in the side of the face, and then they get back to the boat but Monty is fucking dying and Percy calls him darling and it's fine, I didn't need happiness. But then Monty's okay, just the side of his face is really screwed up and like we have some George Weasley shit going on here, so Monty's deaf on one side, but Monty and Percy are okay and my freaking heart is not. Anyway, it's because Felicity is a badass that this idiot is alive, and bless Felicity Montague. But then Percy and Monty finally talk and Monty basically has a moment where he's like, I know I'm an ass and a low-key alcoholic, but I want to be better, especially for Percy. We love character development! And Monty asks Percy to run away with him so that Percy doesn't have to go to the asylum and Monty doesn't have to run his father's estate, and so they can go be gay in peace because again, it is 18th century Europe. And Percy agrees and they are in love, and what a sky it is. So that was my illustrated summary of The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. Please go check out the actual book because not only is it absolutely amazing and one of my favorite books, it's also better than any of the shit I do on this channel. So please go check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay rad, guys.